In this week's thrilling crime drama episode, we will be conducting a DNA fingerprint analysis of the suspects and victims of the Bikini Bottom murder. Deep at the bottom of the ocean lies the town of Bikini Bottom. On a cold, wet afternoon, Doodle Bob was murdered with a giant pencil, and no one knows who did it. The victim, in this case, is the come-to-life drawing Doodle Bob, and the murder weapon is a giant pencil that erased Doodle Bob. Thankfully, before Doodle Bob was erased, the murderer got pricked by the tip of the pencil, leaving DNA evidence at the crime scene. In this investigation, we are considering 4 suspects. Suspect 1, Patrick Starr, Suspect 2, SpongeBob SquarePants, Suspect 3, Pearl Krabs, and Suspect 4, Mr. Krabs. Mr. Krabs is the biological father of Pearl. All the characters are diploid organisms, and all the DNA has been amplified for 2 polymorphic VNTR loci, where VNTR stands for variable number of tandem repeats. The DNA are ran on separate gels for each loci in order to find all the DNA fingerprints for each character. Let's look at the first VNTR loci, also known as the Krabby Patty loci. We have our crime scene DNA and the DNA of all the characters. If you look at suspects 3 and 4, you can see that suspect 4, Mr. Krabs, gave his daughter Pearl, suspect 3, one of the 2 alleles on the loci, which are expected when comparing an individual's DNA with the biological parent. When looking at the victim's DNA, it does not match the DNA evidence, and therefore the DNA is not the victim's. Moving over to suspect 1, Patrick Starr, the alleles are a match, meaning suspect 1 is potentially the killer. Suspect 2 does not match the DNA evidence, so SpongeBob can't be the killer. Suspect 3, Pearl Krabs, on the other hand, matches the DNA evidence and could be the killer. And lastly, Suspect 4, Mr. Krabs, shares only one allele with the DNA evidence, so the DNA is not a match. Moving on to the second VNTR loci, called Goo Lagoon, we again have Suspect 3 and 4 sharing one allele in common because Suspect 4 is the father and passed the allele to his daughter, Suspect 3. Once again, the victim's DNA does not match the DNA evidence, and the blood left at the crime cannot be the victim's. Suspect 1 alleles does not match the DNA evidence, unlike in the first loci, and Suspect 2's alleles do match the DNA evidence, unlike in the first loci. Suspect 3 perfectly matches the DNA evidence in loci 2 yet again, and Suspect 4 shares only one allele with the DNA evidence and is not a match. Putting all this together, we can see that in both loci, the victim's DNA did not match the evidence. For Suspect 1, the DNA was a match in the loci 1, but not loci 2. For Suspect 2, the DNA was not a match in loci 1, but matched in loci 2. Suspect 3 matched the evidence for both loci, and Suspect 4 did not match the DNA for either loci. Therefore, the only suspect that matches the DNA evidence in both loci is Suspect 3. Let's reveal the murderer of Doodle Bob. The murderer was Pearl Krabs, Suspect 3.